Welcome to my Just Jenny podcast. My friend Seth Rudetsky is with me, and he is amazing. Brava.
Just Jenny.
That's pretty much it. Seth, I'm really excited for you because you have a new book. You are everything, I swear. You are a composer, a
I'm not a
pianist.
composer.
What
People
are
always
you?
say I'm a
A
composer.
lyricist?
No, I mean, I worked in Rosie O'Donnell as a lyricist, but it's like people always like, you're a wonderful music writer. I'm like, name me one song I've ever written. Silence. I wish I were a composer. I don't have any
Why do I
talent.
think, okay, so I just think of you as a musical genius. And
I'm
when
no,
you're a
I'm a,
musical,
I'm a musician, not a musical genius. No, I wish I were Mark Shaman. My sister always says, why can't you be Mark Shaman? I don't have an
hold
answer.
on, hold on.
Yeah.
You are a musical genius. So fine,
I'm a
you're not a
musician.
composer. That's Matt Sklar's a composer, right? He's a composer, Matty Sklar.
Matt Sklar. Yeah, we did Les Mis together.
Yeah, I love him. He's a great guy. But he's a composer.
Yes, I'm not. I have no talent in that area. This is my composition. Just Jenny.
Yeah, see, you do, but you have written like jingles and show opens to things.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. But that's not. I'm just saying. I wish I could write.
Hold on. I don't know, is that hairspray? But wait. It's you can't da 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 da
Yeah,
da 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 da
yeah.
da.
Nice
Right? Uh-huh.
placement.
Thank
Yeah,
you. But I feel like didn't you do the open for the Tonys at one point, or you only did
I
the
wrote the
lyrics?
lyrics. Yeah. So when I worked at
Okay.
Rosie O'Donnell, yeah, I definitely write lyrics and they're comedic and stuff. But like, I don't think it's my skill set. But I appreciate it, just Jenny. You go by
Well,
just
I
Jenny, right?
I also go by Jenny for
I
people
think
who
just
know me.
Jenny's. I think you really got us like
Push it, like really.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right.
And
Thanks for
you go
that.
by hashtag just Jenny. I just want to make sure we have everything.
Always, because otherwise there's just mad confusion and I can't be searched. But Seth, I feel like you have, okay, so you're a piano player and you've accompanied people on Broadway, over 15 Broadway shows.
Yes,
And
that's
when
true.
you do your cruises, you play piano on those as well.
Well, yeah, I do these big shows with like that's what I would say. I was consider myself an entertainer. So like when I
Yes, you
do
are.
these concerts, it's like if we're gonna just focus on that for a second. Like I hate concerts where the person's like, let's say I do a show with Audra McDonald where it's all scripted, but it's like when I did Ragtime, I hate that. So my concerts, I make the stars that I'm with on
Yeah.
my cruises or my concerts sing, whatever hit songs they have. But then between songs, I interview them. So there's nothing scripted. I can't stand scripted patter. So I feel the
Neither.
entertaining part is making people talk about sassafras. Like when I was with Sutton Foster, she's like, I auditioned for Annie. I wanted to be an orphan and they made me play Annie. I was so mad. I was like, why were you mad? She's like, I didn't want to rehearse. And I was like, you played Annie, hit it. And I'll make her just
Oh,
sing it. So I like the spontaneity. So that's what I feel my skill set is forcing people to be somewhat spontaneous.
one of my favorite hours of your, I don't think it was Stars in the House, or it wasn't a deconstructing, because I know you deconstruct songs and with the songstresses and whatever, but
I
you had Andrew McCardle on not too long ago.
love her.
And it was the greatest. I don't know if it was an hour. I don't know what it was, but I watched the whole thing, Seth, and I
Aw.
smiled from ear to ear and sang the entire
Yeah.
time. It was just everything.
I'm obsessed with her. I'm actually doing a concert with her for PFLAG, Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays. She's
Oh,
she's one of those, there's so many kid stars. I just want to say that get to Broadway because they follow direction, they can sing on pitch, and then they become adults, and it's like, oh, wait, that's not enough to be a star. Whereas
mm-mm.
she just has this incredible, she was a kid star and she has an incredible voice. That's why she's a Broadway star as an adult. She's incredible.
Incredible and just so identifiable and launched 1,000 Annie mimics. I mean, it
Yeah.
was like
Around the
we
world.
all did. Maybe far away.
Yes.
And, and like that was all of us did it because
Yeah.
how could we not? But she was the best. So we all looked like jackasses and fools because she was the best.
And she was, by the way, the first girl to audition for that show. She was literally,
Oh,
which I talk about in Musical Theater for Dummies, but she was literally the first girl to come in and she sang Poor Johnny one note da 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 when she was 11 years old.
yeah, she really. And so when you had her on recently, it just took me right back. And I think that's part of what's so magical about what you and your husband James do with Stars in the House, which on YouTube you've raised over $1 million for various charities, and then went through a whole hubbub with YouTube, which I was definitely,
Girl,
you
thank you for
know,
helping. Don't even get me started. That I'll
well, I
discuss it.
felt, yeah, I saw you posted that they took down your channel, and I was like, wait, the channel that brings us joy, huh?
We'll find out the reason at some
Yeah.
point if you get my drift.
Yes, I got it. And so, but now you have this book, which made me so happy too, Musical Theater for Dummies. I think this is so needed because I think, Seth, that people who listen to you on SiriusXM, you have this Broadway show that's run for ever on the Broadway
It's
channel.
20-year anniversary this year.
Mazel tov. Oh, I love that. You haven't aged a bit.
Well, that's because I taped my face before the Zoom. You said we're filming, so I have so much scotch
Yeah.
tape right there.
Really, I was having a crying jag, so I was just like, let it rage. I don't care. I was like, I could go put on some makeup and look like a human, but nope. My nostrils are like two different sizes from the crying and the
Your makeup,
allergies.
you actually look great. Bravo.
No, nothing.
Very
Thank you.
impressive.
Brava. It's so you. But
Bravo.
you've worked all the greats, by the way,
Yes.
Rosie and Audra
Yep.
and Andrea and
Yep.
Sutton, just every single one of them. But the
Thank you.
book, Musical Theater for Dummies, is so cool because I don't think people really understand what goes into making a Broadway show or a musical. And
Yeah.
this, from top to bottom, from the set design to the casting director to who gets the roles to doesn't matter how old you are or what you look like, is a real like Bible of how to do it, want to do it if you want to do it, how to what to understand about it. It's really cool.
Thanks. I wanted to write it for people that know nothing and
Yeah.
people that know everything. Because even if you know everything, I have these little, like every other page, I have something called Seth Speaks, where I'll
Yeah.
tell an inside story. And basically, no one really knows these stories because they were kind of just told to me, like when we're doing a Broadway show backstage. So even if you know everything, you're not going to know about how Andrea McCardle, actually, you'll love this. Andrea McCardle, who we both love, was in Les Mis, and in Act 2, you may not know this, but Fantine, after she dies, has to come back as what's called a bullet boy. So she's dressed as a boy in Act 2, Fantine. So McCardle was on, and she said she loved playing Fantine because the dresses were really big. She could gain weight. So she was eating a quarter-pound bag of M&Ms. So she's backstage eating M&Ms. She puts the M&Ms in her pocket. She goes out for a big death scene in Act 2 of Les Mis, and her friends are in the audience. So she goes, oh my God, I'm going to go to the top of the barricade and do a really good death so my friends will be impressed. So she is in Les Mis, hooks her foot into the barricade, leans back for her death, and she forgot that there was a quarter-pound bag of M&Ms in her pocket. They came all the way down the barricade, beautiful rainbow, into the actual orchestra pit. So my point is, even if you know Broadway, you're not really going to know that story because Andrea just kind of told me. So that's what I think the book is fun, because it's for know-it-alls and for know-nothings.
Yeah. And for people who follow you, they'll see Seth Speaks and they'll be like, oh, his show.
Yeah,
I know.
exactly.
So I was a guest on Seth Speaks. That's actually one of the highlights of my time at SiriusXM. It's true. Doing your show. Summer 11. It's true. It was with Lance Bass. I tell people, they're like, you could sing. I'm like, I know. I'm just a real untapped talent. But I think that you're tap it, baby. Well, that's the other thing. I was reading this and I was like, wait, so any age I could try and get myself into the chorus of a Broadway show, or like a small bit part of a Broadway show at this age in my 50s.
Well, especially when you get older, because actually a lot of people do leave the business when they get older. So you really can start working when you get older, because mostly the bulk of people that want to do Broadway are like 20 to 40.
Right. So they don't have as many character actresses in their whatever age, in their 50s. We're in our 50s. What does that feel like for you?
I'm still, I think, publicly 35.
Oh,
so
I forgot. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry about that.
It's all good. No, it's weird. It definitely is sort of like, oh my God, like, is my career over? Like, you go like, wow, like I can't keep going. Oh, I guess one day and I'm like, oh, wait, is everything behind me? I don't know. But then you go, well, look, Mel Brooks wrote The Producers when he was 73. But then I go, right, but he had a million Hollywood hit movies before, and you don't. It's hard. You just go like, oh, maybe there aren't all those possibilities anymore. And you get a little devastated. And then you go, well, it's better than being dead, I guess.
Interesting that you would get devastated, because I look at your career and I think you're like so well respected, so talented. And I think about your upbringing. I want to talk about that because you grew up on the South Shore, Long Island.
Yes.
And which was Jewish then, but now it's really, really Jewish.
Right. It's
and
ortho.
I mean, it's ortho fully. And I think about what you've accomplished, and it's incredible. I mean, every Broadway person knows you. Everybody in that whole world just respects you. And yet you could say to me here, like, I think about what I haven't done yet. Like, I look at you as you've done it all.
I always tell this story, and I won't even say who it was, but I was talking to a very big Broadway star, and I said, wait, you've never been on Ellen? And he was like, I'm not Kristen Chenoweth. And I'm like, wait, even at your level, there's someone above you. So I think you always want the next thing. I think that's just normal. But I mean, listen, I do say to myself, it is amazing that I've worked with basically all of my idols and that I get
Yeah.
along with them so well. So I really do appreciate that. It is what you and I dreamed of. Like when we were listening to the Annie album, to get to just meet those people was like, would that ever happen? And the fact that I get to do concerts with Andrea, done concerts with Betty Buckley, all these people that I grew up listening to, believe me, I know it's a dream come true. I see time as more finite now than I did when I was younger.
Talk about when you were younger and when you realized, because though you don't call yourself a musical genius, I do. And I think anybody who actually knows you says the same thing. You're just, I mean, yes, you're an incredible entertainer too. I think it's your whole being that's pretty genius. But I feel like you can hear a song and play it. I feel like
No,
yeah,
I
your wealth
wish.
of knowledge. Oh, but how do you have it all in that brain? I've watched you. I've watched you in the
Yeah.
bubble. I've watched you just in the moment can think of what to play. You are a musical genius. Own that shit. Seriously.
I think I have a lot of musical talent. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying, listen, everyone has different versions of musical talent. I do not have the talent. I feel that I can compose, maybe, but I don't think so.
Okay.
And I don't have the kind of talent where it's like I hear a song and I play it. That's also not me. If you want to be very literal, my talent is sight reading. I've always been a really good sight reader. So when I
Okay.
first moved to New York, I was able to play auditions, like give me any music, and I was like, I could just sight read because
Wow.
I grew
Yeah.
up playing piano. So sight reading is really good. And I think I follow really well, which sounds boring, but it's not. Like singers really want pianists that are really connected with them. And that is a skill set. And when I was young, I mean, I advanced incredibly quickly on the piano. I wasn't a prodigy, but kind of my big claim to fame, which is like, sounds like a joke, but it also made me realize, oh, I'm a really good pianist, is when you begin, there's a book called John Brimhall's called Teaching Little Fingers to Play. And there's at one point near the end 2 pages. So one page is the student, one page is the teacher. And when I was, I guess, 6, I was like, wait a minute. And I learned, like, I looked at the student and the teacher part, I played them both at the same time. And that's when I was like, oh, I'm talented. So I knew I
Yeah.
was talented, but I wasn't like I wasn't like
You
8 years old playing concertos.
right.
I was just
Okay.
advanced.
Yeah. And so when you knew that you were advanced and knew that you found like a friend in music, and I think all singers, all musicians will probably say the same thing. Like when you're musical, it is like having a buddy with you at all times. I mean, it sounds totally weird,
That's
but like,
interesting.
yeah, I mean, I always sing. I always walk around my house singing. With
Mhm.
my daughter, the two of us sing our communication. Like we with my family, it's a very common thing. Like, what do you want for dinner tonight? And then the other one will, it's just absurd, but that's how we live. And it gives great comfort. For you, growing up other and a gay kid in the five towns back in the 70s and 80s, which was not, gay then was kind of like, oh, the decorator, oh, the hairstylist. It was a
Right.
real, and especially Long Island, New York was
Yeah.
like, we were all liberal and comfortable,
Right.
but it was the decorator and the designer, right? Not the doctor. And so, as opposed to, of course, the doctor is gay, right?
Right.
So, but for you as a child in that environment, having this talent and this ability and this friend in your music, did that sort of help with whatever you had to go through to be
Good
okay?
question.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. And it's interesting because it is really what quote unquote saved my life. Because definitely, you talk about being Jewish. When you're Jewish and you face any kind of anti-Semitism, your parents are still like, we're the chosen people and, be proud of being Jewish. But you don't go to your parents and go, I'm gay. And they're like, oh my God, being gay is amazing. You're part of the script. Like you don't have anyone helping you. So when someone
Right.
says, kids make fun of me all the time, like, oh, you're gay, you're gross. I couldn't go, my parents say it's cool to be gay. I was like, oh my God, I am gay. I know that I am, even though I'm not admitting it. Everyone says it's awful. I guess I'm awful. But then I had the other side of me that's like, wait, I'm really talented. I'm getting all these awards and stuff. So there is a part of me that I know is really good. And I know that there's a place for me. I knew that there was a place for me. And, I knew that not stardom, I knew show business was a place for me. If I didn't
Something
have
make you
that,
known. Yeah.
yeah, I remember from my friend Michael McElroy, who created Broadway Inspirational Voices. He was like, imagine those gay kids that don't have talent,
I was
which is
about
like,
to say, holy shit, you pick because I do think about that. Like I think about the exceptional gay kids have the exceptional thing. So they're in a way protected, which is gross and
no,
wrong.
but they have
And
hope. They have hope.
right, right,
It's very
right.
hard to have hope. That's why the whole "it gets better" is very important to tell gay kids you're not going to be in school forever. I mean, listen, the world will mock you, but not you. Your world won't be high school forever.
Right,
And and I
right.
knew, and I knew it wasn't gonna be high school forever, and it would be a place that loved me and I would succeed. But other gay kids need to just know you can get out of this place and
Of
be in a place
course.
that at least accepts you. but I was
That's
very
right.
lucky that I had the talent. Very lucky.
Yeah, I mean, I look at where we are today, and while we are legions ahead of where we were, we're obviously not where we need to be. And I feel like now with the whole LGBTQ community, uh, it's like everybody's gay or everybody's bisexual, and now sort of the more marginalized is trans, and it's so the
But
whole
what's
thing
interesting
is,
is
you know,
the more, there's a book called The Dance of Anger, and it's like the more you change, the more your family goes change back, change back. So two
ugh,
things I'll say is even though gayness is much more accepted, I've a young adult series, and the first book is called My Awesome Awful Popularity Plan. And it's
yeah,
about this 15-year-old kid who thinks he's gay and he winds up dating this girl because he wants to maybe date the girl's boyfriend. Anyway, the end of the story is it's literally banned in Texas. And it's the most like innocent, like he
mm,
literally, there's a kiss at the end, but it's banned.
mm,
Second of
mm,
all, I wrote you beforehand and I reminded you we did Broadway for Orlando, which was What the World Needs Now Is Love after the Pulse nightclub shooting. And it
it's
was all these great
beautiful.
stars, Gloria Stefan, Lin-Manuel Miranda, Audrey McDonald,
Yeah.
Bernadette Peters. We released it to raise money for the victims and their families. And it's this amazing video. And at the beginning, it begins with basically this rainbow flag and then the song. We got a letter from a children's book author and it said, I wrote this children's book. We're in Sacramento, and part of it is to watch What the World Needs Now Is Love at the end, but it begins with a rainbow, and rainbows are banned in Sacramento elementary schools. Can we edit out the rainbow at the beginning so we could show the video to the elementary school kids?
Mm.
Literally asked us. And I said, it is such an insult to the gay people who were murdered for being gay that you want me. By the way, it's not a
Right.
picture of men kissing, it's literally a rainbow.
It's a
And
rainbow.
they want to edit it out of the video so these kids don't have to see it. And I was like, no, it's
No.
an insult to their memory, to these gay people to have the
Ah,
rainbow taken out. So
right.
it is true, it's better now, but it's also horrific.
Yes. No, and I'm not diminishing that. Yes, of
I know
course. I
you're
just
not. And
it's I
trans is the
guess,
focus.
and
I
that's
know
the
you're
whole,
not.
and so it's a weird, I just feel like I can't stand where we are right now in the
Yeah,
sense that there's any of the I mean, their anti-Semitism is back. It's chic
girl.
again. I mean, what the
It
fuck?
is. Well, we're hated by the left and the right. That's why there's
Yeah.
that great book, Jews Don't
Okay.
Count. Yeah, both sides.
Right.
I know. It's like,
A lot.
I
It's a
can't keep
lot.
fighting. It's so
No,
much
I,
work.
yes, so that's the thing. But you bring so much joy. And I guess that's
Thank you,
part of
Tammy.
why it's been sort of like musical theater, like all these people who are anti-gay or anti-trans, and they go to the theater, like, where do you think you are?
I know.
Like, how do
I
they
mean,
not see the contributions of so many magnificent humans?
yeah. I mean, Mrs. Doubtfire is touring, and it's like, how
Right.
can it
Drag.
tour if you're banning trans? I mean, it's a man dressed as a woman. Like, oh, well, that's fine. It's
And
like, but
drag.
why?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Alexander
Yeah.
Billings is great. There's some really great trans people that I follow that are so inspirational. And oh my God. Anyway, bravo for speaking about this because it is anyway, it's very difficult and trans are being incredibly marginalized now. I mean,
Yeah.
again, my trainer brought up, he's like, so what do you think about guys doing sports? And I was like, here's the deal. I said, until trans
Oh,
people stop being murdered, then I
right.
can focus on the minutia of what you're talking about.
Agreed. That's exactly right. Exactly right. Because what are we, I mean, especially when it's at like the grade school level or the high school level. I mean,
Don't
come
worry
on.
about it.
Is this like Division One? Are there major dollars on the line? Like, this is just stupid. And I also think it's all stupid anyway. But
Right.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
and
he'll
murder
say
and
that to me. He'll
thing.
be like, or he'll be like, nowadays, a guy at work, he can't pat a woman on the back. He's scared. I go, great. Until all rapes are reported and they're actually punished, I'm not worried about that
Me
aspect.
either.
It's like,
Me
don't
either.
worry about the minutia.
Right. Right.
Ugh.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Because the people are dying. People
Yes.
are dying because of who they are.
Then
What?
give me your amazing Fox News, one special story that sticks out. I don't care.
Right.
Let's
Right.
talk about
Also, like the
Broadway.
idea that people are, no, but just the idea that like somebody would purposely, somebody would go the lengths of being trans because it's such an easy life to
Exactly.
perpetrate an assault in
In a
another
women's
gender
restroom.
bathroom. Yeah.
Right. Right. All these men are dressing up as women just so they can do it's like it's just
There's, yeah.
it's not real.
No, it's not. No, it's just not. So, yeah, I'm with you. And I feel, and I do talk about stuff like that because I don't know how I cannot. It's just murder
Well, but
is
you know
murder.
what?
And
It is a big deal because unfortunately, Republicans, it'll be a lot of like Nancy Reagan. I do care about Alzheimer's research because my husband has it. So it's like you're not trans,
right.
but you actually
No,
care about it. It's not
I do.
affecting you, but you
No.
care because you're a liberal and you're a feeling person. You're
Yeah,
an
well, because I care
artist.
about people. I care about people. That's
Thank you.
it. I mean, that's all. Wait, okay. Back to the musical theater for dummies.
Okay.
Talk about what someone will learn by reading this
Sure.
book.
Okay. You know what? My head's coming off. I will say it killed me to write. It was one of the worst things I've ever done in my life. It is what, almost 400 pages?
It's incredible. And the names in this book and how, I mean, you name check, you tell stories,
It's
you're,
all
this
fun.
is,
So
yeah.
it's basically, first of all, the history of musical theater. And I had to go back to like, Gilbert and Sullivan, but then I basically go through the top 10 shows of every decade. Plus, I'm telling an inside story about each one. Jenny Hutt,
Mhm.
name me a famous Broadway show. I'll tell you an inside story about one. Go.
Beautiful. The Carole King musical.
Sure. Okay. So beautiful Carole King musical. I have 3 concerts coming up with Jessie Mueller, by the way, Dallas,
I love her
Las
so
Vegas.
much. What a winner.
So I was talking to her because, she plays as Carole King. And I'm like, oh my God, it's amazing. Your piano playing. She's like, I'm beyond not playing. She's like, I learned, because the part that goes at the end, but anyway, she was like, they took the strings out of the piano. She goes, so I knew where my hand position was. She goes, but if you heard what I was playing, it was just, she said it
It
was,
didn't look that way.
but it looked amazing. I'm
Yeah.
obsessed with that. And on a
Yeah.
side note, speaking of Jessie Mueller, when she did Waitress, every time she did the song What Bacon Can Do, she was like, why is my throat closing up after the number? And she realized that when she was making the pie, she realized she had a gluten allergy. So they changed all the flour to gluten-free because it would go into her throat after the song.
Ball. Yeah.
These are the
Oh,
stupid stories you can learn from musical theater.
that, what's also interesting about musical theater in general, too? Like, as we age, you can always find a song that's right for you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, right? So, like, if at 20, it's from Wicked, I'm Not That Girl. Or if it's from from Pregnancy, or if She Used to Be Mine, like that song is from
That was the
Waitresses.
first. Jesse told me that they gave Sarah Bareilles
Oh,
the DVD of Waitress, and they said, like, what do
yeah.
you think? Can you write something? She's like, I'll give it a go. How's this? Her first song was She Used to Be Mine. Mine. She was like,
Oh.
how? Let me try this one out. Is that
Let me
crazy?
just give it a whirl. It's crazy because it's I mean,
Speaking
it's
of which, same story. I was telling this about Alan Menken. They were writing Be Our Guest, and he was like, I'll just write a dummy melody and you put lyrics to it. So then Howard Ashman put lyrics to it, and Alan Menken's like, now I'm gonna write the real melody. And they were like, wait, we love your dummy melody. So literally the one he just made up was ba 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 ba
da, da,
ba.
da, 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 da.
Yeah.
Oh my
He was like, I'll write
gosh.
a real one later on. No, keep that one because it's amazing.
Did you think The Lion King was different from every other show when it first came to Broadway?
I don't know if it was different, but the different just, I mean, every show is different, but to me, the translation of the thrilling visuals of animation to the thrilling visuals of singing in front of you, that's what was different. It was unbelievable. She went to Oberlin,
Yeah.
Julie Taymor, so I went to
Yeah.
Oberlin too.
There you
Those
go.
visuals were unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Whether it should have won Best Musical over Ragtime, I don't agree. But by the way, what is the best musical? What does it even mean? Best
I don't
what?
know.
But I
Right.
do think
Yeah.
Ragtime should have won just because it was about something that will, I mean, I guess so was Lion King. I don't
You
know. I think
know,
it's the best musical. How about that?
Lion King. So when I went to that show, I remember, and it must have been like my son must have been 2 years old or 3 years old. And when he was born, it was like The Lion King was in its day, the movie. And I
Mm.
was holding him in the window as baby Simba. I was doing the whole like Lion King in my head in my apartment. I mean, classic, right? I'm such a weirdo. But I remember sitting in that theater and hearing just a bit da ba da 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 ba da 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 da, and I started weeping.
Of
Like it
course.
just, I remember weeping from that opening and from Hamilton. I went and saw Lynn right before it ended, Lin-Manuel Miranda, right before he left the show,
Yeah.
and it wrecked me.
Those opening numbers, the Ragtime opening too. But by the way, you'll be so jealous when I did the Rosie O'Donnell show. They did Circle of Life in that little Rosie
Hey,
O'Donnell
there
theater.
you
So
go. Jealous.
we got to be there when they did it. And the other Lion King story, I said to Matthew Broderick, I'm like, you're so great in How to Succeed. I said, why don't you sing in the movie as Simba? And he's like, well,
No.
yeah. He's like, well, I went to the recording studio and I started to sing it. And they were like, Matthew, relax. You have to relax. And he's like, okay. Then I started again. They're like, why won't you relax? Why aren't you relax? And he just freaked out. He was like, bye-bye. So anyway, that's why he didn't sing in the movie, because they freaked him the F out.
And it got, yeah. By the way, you seem to have a great ear for things like The Last of Us, the biggest show ever.
Uh,
You were responsible for the Lynn Ronstadt song. And I just, I'm going to say it again. You're a genius. You're a
Well, there's
musical
more to the
genius. Like,
story.
you
So
just, yeah.
basically, Craig Mazin is a good friend of
Yes.
Sutton Foster's husband, Ted. And
Mhm.
Ted said to me, oh, Craig is a fan of yours, listen to the radio. So Craig and I became friends. He invested in my Broadway show, Disaster, just a great guy. So he writes me 2 years ago and he's like, I'm writing this TV show. Can you think of like a devastating love song from Broadway? So I said, oh, there's this beautiful song. Everywhere I look, I can see her face. And he writes back and he said, well, it should maybe be to a guy. So her face is maybe too on the nose. And then I said, oh, there's this other beautiful song, Fanny, about how he can never love Fanny. And then he goes, well, it still sounds like it's to a woman. I said, well, if it's not from Broadway, I said, the most devastating love song is Long, Long Time. Love will abide, take things in stride. And he's like, oh my God, I love it so much. Literally don't hear anything else. 2 years later, Long, Long Time hits the charts at #1. Like, I was so happy. I've always loved that song. I love Linda Ronstadt. And it's every article in the world is like, Craig Mazin said, Seth Rudetsky recommended. Like, all I did was say the song devastated me. Like, I didn't read this. I was a lovelorn, 20-year-old pining over my ex-boyfriend. And I remember weeping over that song. That was my skill set. It wasn't like I did anything that special. I didn't write the song. But anyway, I'm happy that it's a hit again.
Yeah, but you connected to it in the moment that he asked you
Oh,
about it. And he was kind enough and gracious enough to give you
yes.
credit. And there's something to that. I really, you got to give credit where credit is due. It's just the right thing.
I do agree. That's a very big deal. I love when people do that. I mean,
It's a tell. It's a tell of who they are.
yeah, when they admit it. Yeah, I love it. Because there are a lot of people on Broadway that take, I mean, I wouldn't say a lot of people, there are people on Broadway that think, for instance, you read about it in my book, West Side Story, Jerome Robbins, when you see Jerome Robbins' retrospective, they'll do America. He didn't choreograph America. That's Peter Gennaro. Peter Gennaro had to sign away all of the rights to the choreography. So they'll do a Jerome Robbins retrospective and laud America, and it's not his choreography at all.
I mean, what's that about?
It's because Jerome Robbins was more famous. But if you ever talk to Chita Rivera, like whenever I do a concert with her, she said all the shark stuff was Peter Gennaro.
Wow.
I
Here
know.
I'm snapping. Can't help it no matter what. When you're a jet all the way from like I can't help. We do that in my house too. That's another one we'll do. Like the minute anyone starts fighting about anything stupid, we'll do that. It's
Jenny,
just
I have
so
more stories for you. I was talking to Martin Charnin, your boyfriend who, created Annie. He was in West Side Story. So he said he was doing West Side Story, but it was on tour. And the dance captain kept screaming at them saying, when it would go, snap, snap. She kept saying, your snaps are off. And they were like, they're not off. And she's like, I'm telling you, your snaps are off. And the dancers were like, we don't know why our snaps are off. Turns out, if you ever play in an orchestra, but orchestras will have quote unquote cues. So it'll say like, drum solo, there'll be parentheses, flute, listen for the flute. The drum player saw snaps in parentheses and he was snapping along. So it was stage orchestra here, snap, 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 snap.
no.
That's why it was happening. They were blaming the dancers, but it was the drummer in the orchestra pit. These are the inside stories nobody cares about that I give you.
I love
Musical
that.
Theater for Dummies.
I love that. I love that though. That's so good because off snapping or off beats freak me out. But it's a game. That's the stuff about being musical. Like it makes life more fun. Like my daughter and I sit in the car and literally like do clap to a song and change the beats, but we're always on a beat because we can't help but have the right rhythm because we're musical. It's just fun.
The worst thing is when people clap on 1 and 3, I want to kill myself.
It's too much, right? It freaks. You can't help but hear it. Like that's the thing. When you're musical, you can't help but hear like the line of whatever it is, and when it's off or the rhythm of the beat is off, you want to die. You want to die.
But sometimes it's something about feeling too much inappropriately. I was talking to keep name dropping, but Audra McDonald was doing Porgy and Bess. And there's a song, there's a boat that's leaving soon for New York. And he's literally dragging Bess to New York to make her a coke addict and a prostitute. And she said she'd look out in the audience sometimes and he'd be like, there's a boat that's leaving. And the audience would be like, boat that's leaving. And she's like, why are you dancing? I'm literally going to be a coke addict.
You're confused.
Exactly. Right. I know there's a good beat, but stop dancing.
Right. Well, people, I mean, that's really funny. But when you have that kind of connection to music, and I think that's why music is so important beyond the fact that it like does alter brain chemistry and can help heal a variety of ills. I think the way it hits each of us.
Jenny, I've been going to the Actors Fund Home and doing these shows for the memory unit when people have dementia. They will be so basically out of their minds. And then when I begin the music, I can't tell you, they're like different people. It sounds like I'm making it up, but they're different people. It's unbelievable. Really, music is like, real. It just connects with people.
Yeah, it's real. It's actually, that was one of the things when I read, because when you're an artist, I think artists in general, we struggle with having legitimacy, or maybe it's just me. That sometimes I'll struggle with that because I'm like, well, where's the money? Like, where's the fucking dough from being artistic or an artist or whatever? It's hard to sort of equate success and value and figure that out. But I read it was Oliver Sacks before he passed away had written a whole thing about how musical works on the brain, how music works on the brain.
Mhm.
And it was so validating because it was like, well, that's why it gets in me and gives me the chills, or that's why I can't listen to this song that connects me to that moment. Like,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Like, it's real. And then it made me understand really the value of art. It's transcending. So,
I mean, after 9/11, a lot of people were,
yeah.
with me on Broadway were like, oh, why are we doing this? It's so shallow. And I was like, no, it's not. It's bringing
No.
joy and peace. It's bringing things to people. People need it. It's
Yeah.
not frilly. It's to
Yeah.
make people feel. It's completely valid doing art.
Yeah. Do
But
you
I
have
mean,
some? Yeah.
we enjoy
Lord,
it, so we feel guilty, but people love it. But anyway, what do you want to say?
are you obsessed with Anne Juliet? Like, how do you feel about those not revivals, but like musicals that play songs that we know, but now it's in a musical and it's, do you know what I mean? Like, not,
Yeah, I mean, I have
yeah.
to say, one of the ones that really hit me was the Cher musical, because it was taking these really cool songs, but it was having three women sing harmony in it. And I loved it. So I love the songs in the first place, but then it was twisting up the arrangements.
Yeah.
So yeah, listen, music from the 70s will always hit me the strongest. Music from the 70s, it's my absolute favorite. And you know, when you and I were growing up, at least what I did, I'm sure you did it too. We would listen to the cast albums first, memorize it, and then see the Broadway show. So it's kind of the same thing, like going and knowing the
Yes.
music. You know, it's
Yes.
so fun. Like I knew Anna by heart, and then I got to see it and go, oh my God, that's what they're doing when they sing Hard Knock Live.
Yes. Oh my God. That's what I did with the chorus line. The chorus
Yes,
line, I knew it top to bottom before I
me
saw that
too.
show. Still know it top to bottom. Still my, like, one of my very favorite.
Okay, Jenny,
Yeah.
we got to spend 10 minutes on this because that show is one of
Yeah.
my favorites. I have so much about it in my book. I have a
Yes.
million stories. Okay, so
Yeah.
here's my a million stories. First of all,
Yeah.
you know, the opening number was written to make it sound like a rehearsal pianist. That's why it goes. That's why it sounds wrong. Da, da, da,
Ah,
da,
da
da.
da da da
Yes.
da 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 da.
Okay. Also, of course, Michael Bennett wanted to make it be like you were in the middle of an audition. That's why it's so
Yeah.
smart that it begins with again,
Again,
because you're in the
step,
middle of the
kick,
audition.
leap, kick, touch. Again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. So that's why it's again. Okay. Donna, so they're doing a chorus line, and this in the book, doing a chorus line at the Public Theater before it came to Broadway. Cassie was not cast in the show. So the show would end with Cassie not being cast. Never got a standing ovation, even though it was brilliant. Neil Simon was adding jokes to the show. His wife is Marsha Mason. She came backstage and she said, you have to have Cassie be cast. She's the heart of the show, and it's devastating. They let Cassie make the show at the end. It's the first time the show got a standing ovation. Brava. Kelly Bishop, all the stories were true. So Kelly Bishop, she said that people would have mini breakdowns backstage when their parents came for the first time, because she goes, my mother really dug earrings out of the car. She goes, and here I am on stage revealing one of the biggest secrets in the world to the audience. She goes, everyone in the cast was freaking out when their family came. Priscilla Lopez, who played Morales, you'll love this, the song Nothing was going to be cut. So Michael Bennett, they're in a meeting, he's giving notes and he goes, oh, by the way, nothing is cut from now on. Priscilla was like, what's happening? So Don Pippin, the conductor, is in a meeting after the show, and he's like, oh, by the way, he said, you know, you have all those dancers in backup Priscilla when she's singing Nothing. He's like, I can't really understand the lyrics because of those dancers. And Michael was like, wait a minute, all the dancers were cut and nothing became one of the highlights of the show. And Priscilla said, to this day, she's so happy. It's the first time all the dancers leave the stage. She has a solo, but it was literally going to be cut, but it was too distracting because of those dancers. I am obsessed with that show.
I mean, obsessed of every single song and character. By the way, and through the years, like I was saying before, like different songs hit me different ways. Like in college, I loved Dance 10 Looks 3. Loved it. I also loved the harmony about the ballet and obviously, I mean, just magnificent. Everybody loved What I Did for Love because that was a belter's dream and a belter's
Yes.
song.
Yes.
And Nothing, to this day, I still sing Nothing because how could I not? But my favorite is, Music in the Mirror. Now that's my, that is my anthem. It's always my anthem.
Two things I want to say about that. Okay, first of all,
Yeah.
Donna McKechnie is coming on Seth's Big Fat Broadway cruise to Alaska.
I did see that. Yeah.
Okay, so come with me in June.
Oh,
Second of all, so just so when you listen to it again, just know that Donna sings that whole opening. Then there's that dance break. Then she has to come back and sing again.
me the music, give me a chance to come through.
Right, so completely exhausted. By the way, no body mic. And
Oh.
finally, she said to Michael Bennett, she's like, the whole ending of it, when she's going, when it goes, bum, 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 she's doing double turns. And she said to Michael Bennett, she goes, I am exhausted. Can we just not do the double turns? And he was like, guess what? she's desperate for the job. I want you to be exhausted. And that's why he kept it, because he wanted it to be real. And the other thing I'll say, which I love, is Bebe Neuwirth played that role. And she said that
Yeah.
when she rehearsed it, Michael Bennett said, I want you to do the entire scene on your knees just for rehearsal. Because he said, that's the subtext, that you're begging for
It
that job.
is.
So anyway,
Yes.
Music in the Mirror. Oh my God, it's the ending.
Yeah.
Ah,
It's just the best. And the movie, after when the movie came out and it was, I mean, panned as the campiest of camp, I love it. I still love the movie. It's
um,
absurd and fun and ridiculous and good.
let's never speak of it again. I will tell you one story. They had Donna come in. You know,
Yeah.
there's such prejudice against theater
I
actors.
know they are.
So
I
Donna
know.
comes to the audition for a course, and they actually made her audition for her own role. And she starts acting. And they were like, Donna, this is a movie. It's not theater. You shouldn't be yelling. And she said, aren't I standing on a stage and the director's all the way out in the house? And they were
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
they're such
Yeah.
assholes.
Oh,
Anyway,
they're such assholes. Did you see the documentary that they did a while ago about the actual casting of the Broadway
Jenny
show?
Hutt.
Yeah.
Okay,
Were you
so
in it? Because I watched it.
I auditioned for the revival of Chorus Line, because I play the show many times and I know the combination,
Yeah.
and I practice. And really the hardest step, if you don't know, it's turn out. So it's double turn, arabesque in. And I was like, you know what? I could do it. So I sign up for the audition. I go to it. I'm waiting. And they cut the opening combination. So basically began and then goes right to the double turn. So already I was like, wow, this is kind of throwing me.
Yeah.
I'm dancing towards the camera. And not only could I not view dancers, not only I couldn't do a double pirouette, couldn't do a single pirouette, I couldn't even passe. I basically fell out of my passe. The
Amazing.
end of the story is they were interviewing people before people went in, and I was dying to be interviewed. And thank God they didn't, because the interview would have been this. People think I'm just a pianist, but I'm an amazing dancer. And it would have cut to me literally fall. So thank God. But what's amazing is, as I watch at the very, very end, they pan everything, and they pan the sign-up sheet, and you literally see my name, number 81, Seth Rudetsky.
Damn it. I wish I would have seen it because I loved that documentary. I mean,
I
yeah.
I loved it too, but boy, was that devastating. The worst audition I've ever been to. Was devastating,
Yeah.
but it was fun.
Why do you think that Annie still to this day has such a hold on people of every age? What do you think about that? That everyone is
I
still
think
so crazy for it?
Martin Charnin was really smart. You know, when he first wrote it, he wanted it to star Bernadette Peters as an adult.
Oh,
So he realized, let's actually have it star kids. And something I write about in my book too, is called the I Want song. The I Want song is Maybe, and that opening song of her yearning for her
yeah.
parents, it's
Oh.
so moving and beautiful that I
Mhm.
think people just connect with that. Danielle Brisbois, who played Molly, said she would lay in Andrea's lap. She goes, and I could literally feel the vibrations from her body as she would sing it. And Andrea said, she goes, all my songs, were staged right in the front of the stage because I had to be by the floor mics because it was before body mics. So, and I said to Andrea, go, if it's a lullaby, why are you like, maybe far away? It goes, the loudest lullaby I've ever. Anyway, but the point is, that song, maybe, I
Yeah.
think it just resonates with us. And then seeing Revenge, seeing Miss Hannigan get taken away, it's so
Oh,
satisfying. It's both things. She That's the other thing too I talk about. I see sometimes you have an I Want song and you don't realize what you really want. Yes, she wants
yeah.
her parents, but she really wants a family. So she gets Daddy Warbucks, not her parents, but her family. So that satisfying ending, and then the villain being taken away. They're both so sad. And a dog.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, exactly. And the dog, right, gets
Okay,
you
you
every
know,
time.
I gotta keep going. So I mentioned Stars in the House, who do benefits for Humane
Yeah, of
Society.
course,
It's
please.
run by Bill Berloni. So Bill Berloni was a intern at the Goodspeed Opera House in the 70s. They said, we need a dog to play Sandy. Can you train it? We'll give you your equity card. And he didn't know anything about training dogs, but he's like, all right, go to the shelter. He's like, oh, that looks like a great dog. They go, okay, well, we're about to literally put him down. So
Oh,
can you buy the dog? He's $5. And Bill's like, I don't have any cash. They're like, well, he's gonna be put down tomorrow morning. So he runs back to his roommate, gets the $5, goes to the shelter at like 7 a.m. in the morning. He was so scared it's gonna be late. Gets this dog that was literally about to be killed, trains Sandy. And after that, Bill has become the animal trainer. Every single animal you've ever seen on Broadway since 1977 was trained by Bill Berloni, and they're all rescues. Every animal.
it's the best story. I love that. And then the movie went and did Dumb Dog. Dumb Dog, why are you following me? Got a crumb dog. Yeah. And the New York accent, the revival. I don't remember when Annie came to New York again on Broadway,
Yeah.
they gave it this crazy accent. Do you remember that? The
It was
show.
so I busted Lila
Thank you.
Crawford, maybe for a why. They wanted to make her sound New York. Lila, I was like, girl, you sound great, but the accent's cuckoo.
Why did they do that to the whole show? It was
I'm
so
sure they were like, this is
strange.
not realistic. We need to, I don't know.
We need to make it New York. Like it wasn't.
I was like, we're from New York. We don't talk like that. I mean, a little bit,
Ever. Well, a little, but not like that. Not the
not
way
like
they did
that.
it. Not like
By the
that.
way, I also talk about in my book, Sarah Jessica Parker went to go see Annie. As
Yeah.
she's sitting there watching with stars in her eyes, her father said, Sarah, you're not Annie material. Literally a year later, she's playing Annie on
Annie.
Broadway.
That's right.
So
That's her.
don't listen to your parents, dear.
Yeah. Annie. It has a hold on
Oh, one
all
more
of us.
devastating story. It's also
What?
in the book. Carrie Butler tries out for the movie, gets a phone call that night. Beep. Hello, this is to tell you, you have made the Annie film. Screaming her head off. She's 11 years old, screaming, screaming, screaming. Beep. I'm sorry, that last message was a mistake. They called the
Oh,
wrong girl.
no.
Would you ever get over that? I wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't. I'm not over the fact that I auditioned for it and froze. I mean, I was 10 and had no
You were
business.
Cindy Brady?
I froze. Yeah, I was Cindy Brady with no red light. They brought the microphone around to me in a circle, and I was like, tomorrow, tomorrow, I love you. Tomorrow. I'm still not over it. 1980, not over it.
Why did you not go back?
And I went home with Ovaltine. I was so dumb. And I was offered, because of my music business connections, I was offered a private audition. And I was like, no, I want to be like all the little girls.
Actually, I like
Dummy.
that. No, that's not
Fucking
dumb. Actually,
dummy.
I think that's good that you knew that you shouldn't have a private audition, but
I didn't want it. I
you
didn't
should
think
have
it was
gone
right.
back though.
I know. Right in a circle. Tomorrow, tomorrow. Yeah.
Wow. You
Horrible.
know the story I'll never understand? Martin Charnin's daughter, her name is Sasha Charnin.
We follow each other online. I didn't even realize she was his daughter until he passed away. And she was like, my dad passed away and he was Annie. And I was like, wait, what?
So
Yeah.
when I was a kid, I was part of something you would have died to be part of called Beginnings or something different. It was all the kids that were on Broadway at the time, Annie, Evita, Peter Pan, and other people that could sing like me and Carrie Butler. So we did these
Oh,
shows together. Sasha was there. Sasha, it was one of the best kid singers I literally ever heard in my life. She tried out for Annie and didn't get it.
amazing.
But
Amazing.
but why?
But, right.
What
Right.
was her
I don't
father
know.
protecting her?
Maybe there was a weird thing in that generation of not like now everyone talks about nepo babies and I
Right.
think all of us would say like you have Julie who's amazing and she does makeup and you would have her do anybody's hair and makeup and
Yeah.
anything that was appropriate for and she was right for of course you would help your daughter shine at what she's good at doing like
Mhm.
just like if you were a plumber and your kid wanted to be a plumber, they'd be a plumber in your business. That's like a reasonable thing. I think that
Yeah.
makes sense. And no need to deny any of it. Just like the kid has to either thrive or not thrive in the
And
environment that
she's
they're in.
lucky to have those connections, but
Right.
she has to be able to back it up. You're right.
Correct.
What you're saying
But
back in the
yeah,
70s, it was like
it wasn't
just
like that. My dad was so protective of me and this whole business thing.
wow.
I was never like allowed to do all the auditions and do that. No, it was not a thing. It was like, you're going to go to college, you're going to go to law
But
school,
you're
and then
such
you
a
could think
great
about it.
voice. You could
It
you
was,
didn't
yeah,
audition
I
even
could
for
have.
Evita?
No, nothing. And I could have, I just didn't. And you know, the story with Richard J was this whole thing where he was like, you know, she's a really good singer, but she's too fat to be a leading lady and too pretty to be a character actress. He claims he didn't say that to this day. I'm still like he did, because I heard it with my own ears.
Yeah.
And so, you know, but I don't care. I mean, I'm over it and I remember it. And it was a different time. That's the way people talked in
You were
1990.
allowed to be like, you were just allowed to say
Anything.
horrible things to people's faces about their,
Yeah.
it's in, I mean, literally keep referencing my book, but I was allowed
Please
to
do.
audition.
By the way,
Yeah.
you guys have to get Musical Theater for Dummies. It's actually, let me tell you something. It's a great gift. It's a great book because it's a book that most people aren't going to think like, let me go to the store or let me go on Amazon and buy a book about musical theater because it feels like a history project.
Right.
But it's not. It's fun and it's funny because it's you
It's inside scoop.
and your whole delivery, Seth, is unlike
Thank you.
anybody else's.
But I also, by the way, did the audiobook. But my point is, the reason I'm bringing it up is because I was allowed to audition for shows when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And it is, I tell the story that you got to be prepared. So I got cast. It was this huge deal. I got cast at Oliver at the North Stage Dinner Theater, which was like the biggest theater in the country. And it starred Shani Wallace, who had played Nancy in the film. So
Yeah.
I was freaking out. I was literally doing a professional, getting paid for what I love with the star of the movie, with an orchestra and the original Broadway set. However, the show is the thing. And the night the New York Times came, and I was overweight also, by the way. So I always had a lot of shame about being fat. The night the New York Times came, we're rehearsing the song Be Back Soon. And the director said, Tom Pankow, who was the original associate director on the film, he said, oh, Seth, stand over there. I want to rehearse these other two kids. Rehearse them. And the two kids come up to me. They go, what happened? And I said, nothing. He was just rehearsing you guys. And they said, no, because he said, when we do the dance, we need to look in each other's eyes and you're usually right between us. And I said, what? No. And when I said, Tom, I said, was I cut from Be Back Soon? He goes, oh yeah, you were cut. No reason. But it's professional. So I had to be like, okay, went off stage. I mean, sobbing, sobbing,
Crying.
sobbing.
Of
And the
course.
shame is because you don't know the reason. Is it because I'm
Right.
fat? So
Yeah.
it is amazing. I got to do professional theater, but I understand why parents say no, because you're not
It was
old enough.
brutal.
Yeah, you're not old enough to take it. I mean, I'm still
Yeah.
wondering why. I still don't know why, because I was a good dancer, but I'm
So
like, was I
long
too
for
fat?
them. Pip, pip, cheerio. He'll be back soon or not.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
It was,
I'm
so
so
that's the thing.
sorry.
You don't, oh, I have an amazing story about Annie. Here we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know the original Annie was Kristen Vigard. Do you know that?
Yes. And then at the last minute, it got changed.
Wasn't the last minute. So
Okay.
she's doing the role, and Andrea McCardle was cast as Pepper. Well, not Pepper, the toughest orphan. They didn't have names then. So
Hmm.
Kristen Vigard begins it. Kristen's got this beautiful, sweet voice, but she's very, very sweet. And what Andrea always says is they cast Oliver, but they really needed the Artful Dodger. So Andrea is like kids do every day. They'd be like, we're going to act out the show. So they're acting out the show backstage. They know all the lines. She's playing Miss Hannigan. Martin Charnham was apparently dating at the time Mary from Peter, Paul, and Mary. Mary walks by, she hears Andrea being Miss Hannigan, and she's like, oh my God, you got to hear this kid. She brings Andrea in, who performs for the powers that be. And sadly, they fire Kristen Vigard. They move her to the understudy, and they give Andrea the part. So around 2 years later, Charles Strauss, who wrote the music, is writing I Remember Mama. Show's in trouble on Broadway. They're making cuts. They decide to cut the role that Kristen Vigard is playing.
No,
Charles
no.
Strauss says, he literally said to me, he goes, I said, I'm not going to devastate this little girl twice. He stays up all night. They rewrite the show and they add a different role and they give it to Kristen Vigard just so she's not. So, people do
That's
have
really
hearts.
nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
But sometimes it is what it is, and you have
Yeah.
to and I had to be cut. The problem is you don't know the reason. And it's interesting, just in terms of show business, actors
Yeah.
get very frustrated because when they don't get a role, they don't hear why. And
Ever.
right. And in your head, but I understand why also, because sometimes if you call an actor and you say, listen, we're not going to cast you, because sometimes it is like you don't sing well enough, you don't look good enough, but sometimes it is just sort of like you don't fit the costume.
That's
But
right.
you don't want to get into that fight with the actor. So it's this horrible thing where you think the worst about, it's just a weird position. So you get cut and you never really know why, and you have to just go on to the next.
It's such a tough business. I mean, entertainment of any sort is tough. My contract didn't get renewed at Sirius this past fall. Was like I was there after over 17 years. Like you, been there forever. And when they took the Stars channel down and my show went right along with it, there was definitely a week that I was like, what's wrong with me? Who am I? Should I ever open a mic again?
Right.
And and I had to take a step back and be like, wait a minute. You've had 17 years of doing
Yeah.
this every day and you're going to question it because your gig has changed? Like you can't let it, I don't know. In a way, you have to not take it personally
You can't take
somehow.
your value. Listen, you
Yeah.
have to listen to quote unquote criticism from the people that
Sure.
you
Of course.
trust,
Yes.
which I
Yes.
know you
Yes. Yes.
do. And you have
Yes.
to, but you have to also trust your fan base. And if your
Yes.
fans are loving you, then that's what it's about. And my friend Christine Zabornik, one of the most just hilarious people, but she said something about her career. She goes, in my quest for universal acknowledgement of my talent. I'm like, exactly. That's what we all want.
Always. Oh, are you kidding me? Always. All we ever want.
But I
It's
remember I
just,
was talking to
yeah.
some major comedian and he was
Yeah.
like, I don't get Seinfeld. And I'm like, if Seinfeld is not appreciated by the world, then no, it's good to know that no one will ever be appreciated by the world.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
just, so if you're not renewed, it's not
Yeah.
that you're untalented. It could be fine. Who knows? But it's hard to have that kind of core strength to go, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing.
After Richard J had upset me, I hope he doesn't hear this because then he'll be texting me like, "We've talked about this." Blah
It's
blah blah. But
okay.
I know I don't care. He doesn't care. I sent a like a Disney princess type tape to David Foster, and he called me, and he had just cast like that princess movie, which I
Yeah.
think was like an all black cast. I mean, I was not even kind of right for that. And he said the nicest things to me. He was like, "You're really talented and you should keep doing this and you will find." I mean, I didn't. I got married and got pregnant and moved on with my life. But it was so validating because even back then, this is like 1995 or something. Hearing him say to me, like, "You are good enough. Like, you
Okay, hold on.
can."
Here's the deal.
Yeah.
Jenny, you have your own effing podcast. You need to
Yeah.
end every show with you
Yeah.
literally just with a pre-recorded karaoke track, just singing. You really do. And you can involve your fans, and
Yeah.
every day they can pick a song for
Imagine.
you. But
Such a good idea.
you really should, and your
Should. I
fans will
know.
love it.
They will. They'll crack up. They will. Because there's always people that are like, wait, you sing?
Just
Like I
do it. Just
do.
start it. Just
Okay.
start
All
it
right.
today.
I'm going to start. Okay. It's a good idea. I'm going to start that. That's a really good thing to do. I love that idea.
Just
I
get a
let you,
track and sing. Who
yeah.
cares?
Here's the other thing that's really fun about what you do, Seth. You don't just feature kind of the new up and coming Broadway
Mm.
stars. Like you have a real feel for nostalgia and
Oh my God.
also for the greats that are timeless and should be featured until they can no longer be featured because they can't stand. And I love that.
There is nothing I well, look, first of all, Jenny, when you and I were growing up, Broadway was
Yeah.
around 25 years old. You know what I mean? It was so recent. So those
Yeah.
stars were still fresh to me. I mean, Priscilla
Yeah.
Lopez, was like a new up and coming star. Now she's 70. But the point
Yeah.
is, I'm a quote unquote talent whore.
Yeah.
I'm not a what's the word? A
Celebrity whore.
climber.
You like talent. No, I know who
Exactly.
you are. That's how I am. When people are like, you love famous people, I'm like, no, no, no. I love talent. I don't care. I don't give a fuck about a famous person
Yeah.
who's not doing something that I'm totally jazzed about because it's incredible. Like,
Yeah.
but if you're incredible, then I'm obsessed with you.
I'm upset. That's why I do this concert with Sheeta
Yeah.
Rivera. I mean, she was
Yeah.
the first
Oh,
triple threat. I mean,
right.
okay, wait, ask me about an old star. I have stories about everybody. Hopefully. Tell me, ask me.
Let me think. Oh my God, I can't even think right now. But I really wanted to ask you, moving on from that,
Okay,
about the
come
Funny
back to it.
Girl debacle, because Beanie Feldstein, I just loved her from the movies that she's done or anything I had seen her in. And I love that she was best friends with Ben Platt, who's so incredible. And I was, I got to see him in Dear Evan Hansen, thank God, because it was just a magical experience and whatever.
Mhm,
When Funny Girl came out,
mhm.
and how did you feel about how that whole thing was handled? Because I still I worry about her, how that was handled.
Okay, so I have a couple things to say. I only recently just started watching Booksmart, and I'm like, oh my
Obsessed.
God,
Obsessed.
and it's brilliantly directed. So
Yeah,
so
incredible.
I had not seen I never saw her in Funny Girl, so
Wow.
that's good news.
Oh,
But here's the
okay.
deal. When I did do you know about my Funny Girl concert I did in 2002? I'll tell you.
No,
So
did you
here's the
do
deal.
it with Leah? No, she was
No
too
deal.
young. She was a baby.
No. So every year for years, I did a concert for the Actors Fund. I began with Dreamgirls. I have the poster on my wall with Audrey McDonald, Lily White, and basically these giant one night concerts, full orchestra. So I did Dreamgirls first, and then I said I want to do Funny Girl, but I said no one will really be. It's going to be very difficult to have a Barbara. So let me have a different star for every song, mainly people who would never get the role, but who would actually be amazing for different reasons. So Sutton
Yeah.
Foster sang "I'm the Greatest Star." Kristen Chenoweth
Ah,
did "His Love Makes Me Beautiful." Lilius White stopped the show with "Don't Rain in My Parade," and it was this magical night. But I knew to get someone that was similar to Barbara, it would always be less than. So I knew it was not going to happen. So when they cast Beanie, I was like, she's Jewish and she's funny and she can sing. She's just going to be compared to Barbara. It had to be Lily is or Lady Gaga. It had to be someone so different, like the way Patina Miller did the leading player in Pippin. You're like, well, she's not
right.
Ben Vereen, so you don't. So I knew as soon as Beanie got it, I'm like, it's just not
Not
going to be
gonna work.
successful because
Right.
you can't top Barbara. You've got to be something so different. So, and yes, it was not handled well, but it's also quote unquote called show business. And it's like if tickets
Right.
weren't selling, I
They weren't
get it.
selling. Right.
So
And I think Leah had enough of a history,
yeah,
and she's so talented and all of that, but she always wanted the role and everybody knew she wanted it. It
exactly.
was there was
Glee is
drama
a
and people like drama.
Yes, people like drama and Glee is international. So it's
Yeah.
just but it was not handled well. But I do think it was they should not have cast someone so similar to Barbara because you're going to be disappointed.
You're gonna always
So,
be, yeah. Yeah.
but I think she will get over it. She first of all, you can tell she's a very joyful person.
And
So I
talented.
really think
Yeah, she'll be fine.
she'll be okay. There's been a lot. What
Yeah.
about, I mean, my God, Pat LuPone being fired from Sunset. Like that was traumatic because
Right.
she actually got great reviews in London. It was Frank Rich who said she wasn't right for the role. And they knew that when it went to Broadway, she was in London, it wouldn't get good reviews. So they fired her because they thought she would get a bad New York Times review, even though she either won the Olivia or was nominated. Like that, I'm not saying it's different trauma, but it happens all the time.
Hey, the night that Beautiful came out, I went to the opening and with Cynthia Weil and Barry Mann, because their daughter Jen's my
Wow.
friend. Yeah, so it was like the four of us were together that night and at the after party, and the review came out that night and it was terrible. It was a terrible review.
By the way, Jenny, I know everything, quote unquote. I didn't know it got a bad review.
Bad review that night. We sat around
Incredible.
the table
Wow.
and they were so upset. And I was like, it doesn't mean anything. The show was fucking incredible.
Well, what it means is reviews are important, but they only really last for a couple of weeks. It's word of mouth and it's how you market and publicize it.
Yeah, they were so upset. And then as we all know, beautiful is like, I went back how many times? I cried how many times? I
Yeah.
mean, talk about a
Sutton Foster didn't
nostalgic
get good
show.
reviews for 30 Modern Million. She won the Tony Award.
Oh,
By the way,
that song is so
one of my
great.
best friends played Cynthia Weil and
Yeah.
Nika Larson in Beautiful.
Oh, really?
Yeah, one of my best friends.
What an incredible show. I
And what
mean, that, yeah,
talent. I mean,
yeah,
that's just called, I just think composing, and that's what I write about in my book. I said, I call composers magicians. To
yeah,
take nothing and create something, it's magical.
it
And I
really
say there are
is.
only 12 tones on the piano. That's all you have. And yet these songs, I don't know how people do it. That's why I say I'm not a
Right,
composer, because I worship composers. So I can't call myself a composer because their skill level is unimaginable to me how they do
right.
it.
Yeah, it's true. But again, as I started this interview, I'm going to end it. You are a musical genius, Seth, and you have I mean, you know, you have a gift, whether you can acknowledge it or not. You have. I think I dropped the R when I said whether. You are a genius. I mean, I don't know anybody quite as musically talented as you, who does the things you do the way in which you do them. It's pretty amazing.
Listen, I can't not say thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's
Thank you.
true.
And
Yeah, so people have to go to start to find Stars in the House on YouTube. So they have to follow that. They have to follow Seth Rudetsky on Instagram. They have to buy the book, Musical Theater for Dummies, available wherever you get your books.
yeah.
You will love it. You will love the stories. It'll give you great context.
And not only that, Jenny,
Yeah,
if you get the Kindle, by the way, I have nonstop links. So I'll be like, Andrew McCardle was amazing live. And you just click it and you go to the YouTube video. So you can
yeah,
watch all these things I talk about, just FYI, and I have all the links on Seth Rudetsky. Yes,
yeah.
Jenny, please come on my Broadway cruise. The passengers perform with the stars. When
It is
Cheetah
so
did it, the
fun.
passengers did all that jazz and the Tonight Quintet
Yeah.
with Cheetah as
Oh,
Anita.
well, and that's the other thing. People have to go to SethRudetsky.com to get your
Yeah, yeah.
concert series because they are really fantastic and fun and feel good. And like, that's what we need. Like, we need to feel good. So
We
I
need
just love what
joy.
you do.
Thank you,
Hmm.
Jenny. And how am I
Yeah.
going to lose weight like you? Because I've actually gained weight post-pandemic, just
You
FYI.
don't look fat to me. You do not look fat.
As you
Sorry.
notice, the zoom ends in my neck. We call this in college, I call this the table syndrome. So you're with someone in college, aren't you like, my God, you're so cute. And then they get up and you're like, holy shit.
It's
That's me.
awkward.
It's the table syndrome. You
That's
cannot see the size of my
amazing.
ass.
Well,
Um,
okay. Well, we can, then I must, it must be fuller, but I think you're fine. I wouldn't worry about it.
what I eat in
Yes.
a day. Jenny, you're such a joy. I'm so
Yeah.
glad you're still
Yeah.
doing your quote unquote thing, but I'm telling you, you have to add a
Okay.
song every day.
All right. I'm going to work on that.
It's
I'm
so
going to work on
easy.
that.
There's
Okay.
karaoke
Okay.
tracks.
I know. I got to just do it. It's hilarious.
It doesn't have to
I
be
adore
perfect.
you. Say hi to James. Say hi to
Okay, bye. I love
Julie.
you.
And thank you for being on my podcast. Follow Seth at Seth Rudetsky. I'm at Just Jenny Hunt on Instagram, at Jenny Hunt on TikTok and Twitter. Any questions or comments, email justjennypod@gmail.com. And I'll be back here per usual tomorrow.